If you've watched any content on this channel, you know that I'm a runner who doesn't find this shoe, the Asics Superblast 2, the end-all be-all. I think this is a great shoe, however, it just doesn't have the versatility that I've always wanted it to have. Now, the Superblast 1, when it came out over 2 years ago now, was a very interesting shoe. There really was nothing like that you could do daily running through racing with really no compromises. But in those past 2 years, shoes have evolved a little bit, and I think they've gotten very specialized. While the Superblast 2 was an excellent, excellent update, it just made this shoe even more niche than it already was. If I need a shoe to go do a long run in a marathon build where there's going to be the majority of that run at threshold pace or around marathon pace, maybe a little bit faster, and we're talking 25, 30K run, this is the shoe, and that's exactly what this shoe is designed for. However, anything else, this shoe just was too bulky, it's too big, it's too stiff, it doesn't have enough feel, it just didn't work for me. Now I know in the comments I'm going to see lots of people saying they do everything in this shoe, and that's great. If this shoe is that one shoe to do everything in, that's awesome. However, there are some of us that didn't feel that way about this shoe. The shoe I actually have always wanted from Asics is this. Give me the Superblast 1 upper. I just found that upper to be a little bit more race oriented, where the upper on the Superblast 2 is a little bit more training oriented. I think they're both great uppers. I just prefer the Superblast 1 upper. Put that on the Metaspeed midsole. Just give me that big bed of FF Turbo Plus foam, but take the plate out. I don't need the plate. And then you can put the FF Blast Plus Eco foam underneath all of that to smooth out the rough edges of FF Turbo Plus, maybe widen out the heel and the midfoot to add in a little stability, and put the whole thing under the 40 mil stack height limit and make it about 8 ounces or 225 grams ish, and you're gonna have a wonderful, wonderful shoe. This is what I wanted Asics to always make. However, Adidas beat them to the punch with this shoe, the Evo SL. Now this shoe is essentially that. It is the Evo 1, which was Adidas's premier elite super shoe, but with a training upper, Lightstrike Pro, which was the classic foam that Adidas has used for years now, very resilient, lots of energy return, very durable, just a great foam for racing and training, and put the shoe in around 8 ounces or about 230 grams, and you have exactly the shoe I've always wanted. This shoe is now quite interesting, and it competes now head to head with the Superblast 2. Starting with the specs of these two shoes, you can see that the Superblast 2 is just so much more stack height. There is so much more shoe in the Superblast 2, it's not even funny. In fact, the forefoot stack height in the Superblast 2 is just about the same as the heel stack height in the Evo SL. Though, the two shoes weigh around the same. The Evo SL is lighter. You do notice that on foot, but when you pick up the Superblast 2, it feels impossibly light. Most of it is an optical illusion because the shoe is so big, you're shocked that something that big can be that lightweight, but both these shoes are in the same weight range. The ride profile of both these shoes are actually pretty similar too. The Evo SL is what I would call springy. There is a lot more resilience and energy return in that, and that is all Lightstrike Pro foam. But the Superblast 2 actually does quite a good job, but that's a combination of the two foams in that shoe as well as the rocker profile in the forefoot. And the thing that makes these two shoes so similar is that they're both the brand's premier superfoam, racing superfoam in a very pure state. There's no rods, there's no plate, there's no stiffening agent in either one of these shoes. There is a midfoot shank in the Evo SL, but that's not a propulsive element. That's a element there to control the twist of the shoe. But these are as pure experiences of both brands' premier superfoams as you can possibly get, and that's why people love both of them. Looking at the outsole and contact patch of these two shoes, this is where you can really see the difference. This Superblast 2 is just such a wider, bigger shoe, and you're never not aware of that. It just feels wide, it just feels bulky on foot, and that increases the stability of the shoe, but it also takes away, I think, a lot of the use case of the shoe and the versatility of the shoe. Whereas in the Evo SL, you have a much more reasonably profiled and designed shoe that still has quite a bit of inherent stability, given that the foam is a super foam, but it is a much more nimble package that is something that you can use for a lot more types of running than just a long run with marathon pace in it. And looking at the outsole rubber coverage of these two shoes, I think with the Superblast 2, this outsole is probably the best execution of something Asics has always been trying to do with the Blast series shoes by giving you that soft exposed foam on the ground feel, but protecting it with rubber where it needs it for durability and grip. I think this is the best execution of any of the Blast series shoes they've ever done. However, with the Evo SL, this is just a simpler outsole. One piece of continental rubber in the forefoot that gives you all the grip, all the durability, and allows you to feel that one-piece Light Strike Pro midsole and how it flexes and moves through your stride. Two pieces of rubber in the heel to protect the heel, and overall just a much more elegant and simpler outsole. And moving to the upper of both these shoes, I actually quite like the uppers on both these shoes, though neither one is perfect. In the Superblast 2, I think this is a good upper, but as I said, coming from the Superblast 1, I think this skewed it a little bit towards the training side. It's a great upper, it's very comfortable, it does the job really well. I just like the kind of minimalism of the upper that was in the Superblast 1 a little bit better. In the Evo SL, I actually quite like this upper, though the fit of this upper is a little strange. There's just a lot of volume in the forefoot and around the bottom of the eyelet chain in this, so you never really get the performance fit you want in a very performance-oriented shoe. But it works well enough, and I think both these uppers do the job that they're meant to do for this training shoe that's meant to be quite versatile. Moving to sizing and fit of both these shoes, I'm going to say that you can go true to size in both these shoes. In fact, with the Superblast 2, I went true to size, so this is a US men's size 9, what I wear in pretty much every shoe, and I got a wonderful training fit. The midfoot lockdown is good, the volume in the toe box is what I would expect, and the heel lockdown is very good. Overall, this is a very comfortable, very great fit as far as training goes. And that's what I would expect out of a shoe like this. However, with the Evo SL, I also went true to size, US men's size 9, and I got a very good training fit as well. However, I did find a little bit too much volume in the toe box area, especially at the base of the eyelet chain. So I actually bought a second pair of these and went half size down because I wanted more of a performance fit. I wanted a tighter fit overall in the upper. And that's exactly what I got. There still is maybe a little bit too much volume in the forefoot of the shoe, but overall the lockdown is just much better. And it gives me much more of a performance fit. Not a race fit, just a little bit more performance oriented, so it allows me to really pick up the pace in this shoe. Moving to the ride of these two shoes, and starting with the Superblast 2, what this shoe is really famous for is being able to lock into a pace, generally around marathon pace or threshold pace, and just tick that over kilometer after kilometer, mile after mile, until you really can't run it anymore. This is a marathon training tool, and it does it perfectly. However, there are many of us who find this shoe just doesn't really work for anything else besides that. A lot of runners can find a lot of versatility in this shoe, and I think a heavier runner or a runner who likes more foam or maybe a stiffer shoe underfoot, because this is a very stiff shoe for a shoe that doesn't have a plate or any kind of stiffening agent in it. This is a very stiff shoe that really rolls you off the toe because of the stiffness of the platform. But all of that shoe, all of that rocker, all of that stiffness is something that some of us, myself included, don't always want in a shoe that is going to be very versatile. But that's where this shoe enters now, and that's the Evo SL. This shoe will do those long runs with that threshold or around marathon pace and just kind of lock in and tick over kilometer after kilometer, mile after mile. This shoe is wonderful for locking into threshold pace and just staying there as long as you can hold on. So this shoe becomes an excellent long run training tool, just like the Superblast 2. But because this shoe is more flexible, more nimble, a little bit lower, just less bulky, I think a lot of us find added versatility in this shoe, and it really lives up to the promise of what the Superblast 2 is for a lot of the runners who find that there. This is now a shoe that we can do those long runs with threshold pace, but we can do pretty much everything else. If you want to pick up the pace and go to half marathon, 10K, 5K pace, this is going to be a shoe that picks that up, does it really well. If you want to ease it back, do some daily running, this is a shoe that will do that well. Though, as I said in my review of this shoe, link in the description, the problem with this as a daily runner is that you're going to be constantly fighting it to stay slow. This is a shoe that wants to go fast. It doesn't want to go slow. It doesn't want to go easy. There's worse problems to have with a daily shoe that you're trying to do easy running in, but I just like a shoe that wants to go easy a little bit more. But if you need to do easy pace or daily running, this is a shoe that you can do that. But then you can lift up the pace and really go anywhere you want. And I think this is a very, very valid race option now for really any type of road racing, especially 5K, 10K, and the half marathon. When you get into the full marathon, that's where maybe carbon fiber rods or plates or that stiffening agent in the midsole is going to help, especially in the final 10K of the marathon. But I think if you don't really need that, you're very well trained, you have a lot of good form and strength, this is also going to be an excellent marathon shoe for really any kind of pace, 2:30 and slower. Another way of looking at this is with my performance matrix. So if we put the Evo SL and the Superblast 2 on here and we start with the Evo SL, as you can see, the range of this shoe is massive. It basically ticks all of the boxes on this matrix. However, the red or orange area is really the sweet spot, and this is a shoe that comes alive with threshold pace. If we put the Superblast 2 on here, you can see that this is also a shoe that has its sweet spot in threshold pace, marathon pace. It goes down to steady a little bit more, and that's really, I think, designed for those kind of rest periods between the work sessions in a longer workout. Does that really well. But you can see that the range of the Superblast 2 for at least a runner like me who prefers a more nimble, more dynamic ride is very limited. But as I pointed out, if you're a heavier runner, you like a stiffer shoe, or you like more foam underfoot, the range of the Superblast 2 is probably a lot closer to the Evo SL. But now, for two different types of runners, we have two different types of options in both of these shoes. So what's the verdict here? Which shoe do I prefer? Well, with these versus videos, I think it should be pretty obvious at this point. It is the Evo SL. This is the shoe, as I said in the upfront, that I always wanted Asics to make. Something like a Metablast, some combination of a Metaspeed and a Superblast in a shoe that is lower stack, more flexible, more nimble, and just more versatile for those of us who don't want a big bulky shoe on foot all the time. But I think the Superblast 2 is a great option for those who do want that bigger shoe, that stiffer shoe, maybe they're a heavier runner. And both of these shoes, I think, are the two shoes that are currently available in early 2025 that you can possibly do everything in, from daily training through racing with no compromises. And it's great that Adidas made the shoe and added to the Superblast 2, so now there's two options for two different types of runners for a shoe to really do everything in. And one little last thing, because I know someone else is going to say this in the comments, I think the idea of having one shoe to do all your running in is cool conceptually, but I'm also a big advocate of having rotations, at least a 2-shoe rotation. I've done a ton of content on this channel about rotation building, why it's important, why you want to do that. But having a shoe at the cornerstone of your rotation that's very versatile and allows you to do everything in that you can supplement with at least one other shoe every once in a while, I think is great. And as I pointed out in this video, both the Asics Superblast 2 and now the Adidas Evo SL can do that, and do that very, very well. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.